Welcome back to the Dodo's Nest. I am the Modern Dodo, and I'm thrilled that you have chosen to join me for part 2. And I don't know how many parts there's going to be, but I know that I am doing a series that I have started to call A Footballer's Vacation. And what it is it's basically a chronicle of the stories that occurred or developed, I should say, as I was traveling through England, France, and Italy on really a dream vacation that I put together to catch the biggest football fixtures in the world on any given day. So it was an 11-day trip. I visited 4 different countries technically, and I was able to catch 7 different footballing fixtures and acquire a whole lot of stories along the way. So I'm going to sort of touch on some of the highlights of each destination. As you can see behind me, today, part 2 focuses on Tottenham. I came from, if you haven't seen part 1, I came from Norwich City where my journey began. A big part of my inspiration was getting to know some of the staff members, the players, the partners at Norwich City Football Club. Tune back into, I don't want to rehash Series 1, my first episode in A Footballer's Vacation. Tune back into that. It's linked through my website, www.themoderndodo.com, if you want to learn a little bit more about the why. But there's part of the why that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about today. And that is a publication called Glory. So Glory, I got to know some of their team members during their travels with Norwich City and chronicling their trip to Tampa where I met everybody. And they really do an outstanding job sort of just covering soccer. This is the Helsinki issue. This is actually a smaller handheld one that I'm able to use just as a demo piece for this video. But the team at Glory, they're absolutely phenomenal football fans. They are unbelievable graphic designers, publicists. I think they do absolutely amazing work. And the best part is they're even better people. So thank you, Glory, for inspiring me to make this vacation happen. And I can't wait until the pandemic is behind us, not only so our family and friends are healthy and safe, but so that I can begin traveling again, so that I can see you guys again, and so that you guys can begin traveling yourself, and I can start buying your publications again. I keep going to the website, hoping that there's going to be a new one, and based on the pandemic, I know what the answer is going to be. But I wanted to give that team a shout out before I start spewing a little bit of hate in the direction of Tottenham. I'm a big Arsenal fan, so you'll never hear me say anything nice about Tottenham. Hopefully I live up to that in that video. Tottenham was stop 2 of my trip. So if you recall from the first episode, I flew into London, and the first game or the first stop in my travels was actually up in Norwich. So I made my way up into the northeast corner of the country. I had an absolutely phenomenal time at Norwich City, in Norwich, the town, as well as at the game, Norwich versus Chelsea. But day 2 led me back into London because the very next day I had a fixture between Tottenham and Newcastle. And one of the things that I think is absolutely amazing about the English football pyramid is the opportunity for all teams or in organizations, regardless of their size, to compete at the highest level. And I knew it existed, but I didn't know to what degree it existed until I arrived at Tottenham Stadium. And, this is going to kill me. it was definitely year 2. So when I traveled to see Tottenham host Newcastle in 2019, August of 2019, it was the second year of Tottenham's, I hope I'm right about that second year. It was the second year. Let's go all in. It doesn't matter. It's Tottenham. Who cares what we say about them, right? It was the second year of Tottenham's brand new stadium. So, I went from Norwich, which is a smaller town. My hotel was connected to the stadium. I knew the staff members there, a real hometown feel. And if you recall, I talked about going for a morning run before the fixture, to getting back into London, and I didn't have time for a morning run because I needed to put all my efforts back into navigating the subway. There was a bus involved. I was really in over my head and a little bit lost. If I'm being honest, I was really just sort of following Tottenham jerseys to get myself to the stadium. So I was able to get off at a bus stop. In truth, I probably got off about 2 stops too early, but I was nervous. And I got off at a bus stop in London, and it was one long street that was filled with pubs down the side and Tottenham fans pre-gaming. And in the distance, I could see this massive new stadium that had been constructed almost on the top of the hill, it seemed. So I walked towards the stadium, and it got bigger and bigger, and it quickly dawned on me what a competitive financial advantage Tottenham held with a stadium that literally Norwich's stadium, and this is no, I love Norwich. This is no knock at Norwich. It's just that their stadium could fit inside Tottenham Stadium. So coming from a background in ticketing revenues, I always dealt with that with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Our ticketing revenues were half of what the New York Rangers and Montreal Canadiens were making. And based on pure stadium size alone, Norwich must be fighting the same uphill battle as Tottenham does. And there's not a lot of revenue sharing in those leagues. There's some of the TV deals that come out of it. So Norwich does get a boost, don't get me wrong, but it's not a level playing field. And I'm not saying that it is in the NHL, but it's definitely not in the English football pyramid and in the Premier League. So I was able to make my way into Tottenham Stadium. And one of the things I don't think that I covered in my earlier video, I don't mean to brag about it. I just want to share it because of context. Again, because of the connections that I have in the ticketing industry, I think the furthest back I sat for any of the fixtures or any of the trips that I made was row 6. And that's where I was at Tottenham. Now, keep in mind, I was also looking for a single seat, so that made life a little bit easier. So I made my way into row 6 at Tottenham, and they were hosting Newcastle. So I was quite excited. For me, although he's not American, he had recently come over from Atlanta United, which isn't that far from me. So I was familiar with Miguel Almiron. I was excited to see him play. I was, of course, despite the fact that I'm not a fan, hopeful that Harry Kane would play. He did. Son played for Tottenham. I don't think Dele Alli played, so I was able to see a lot of the big names up close during warm-ups in this massive stadium. I've been to the Dallas Cowboys new stadium. That thing is a monster. Tottenham Stadium was the closest thing I've seen to Cowboys Stadium during those pregame warm-ups. It almost took my breath away. There's one end zone that goes up, 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 and it is just, quite frankly, a mountain full of Tottenham fans all chanting throughout the game. Once the game occurred, it was, to be honest, early in the season, a little bit of a lackluster effort from both teams. Joel Linton was a new signing for Newcastle, and he got the only goal of the match. So I left. I can't remember how many people fit into that Tottenham Stadium. I feel like it's got to be at least 80,000. But I left, I think, as one of maybe 2,000 people that were happy with the result. The rest of them were Newcastle supporters. I was, I wasn't a neutral. I was a Newcastle supporter that day, but I left very, very happy with the result. I went into the team store, which was absolutely immaculate. I'm sure you can probably find pictures online. And I purchased this Harry Kane scarf, which now hangs. That's not a mistake. That's not a typo. It hangs upside down. It's the only one that hangs upside down in my screen and porch. There's your teaser. Those are the stories that you're going to hear over the rest of this video series. So I picked up the scarf. I hated to give Tottenham any of my money, but I did. I bit the bullet, and I picked up the scarf, and I started to make my way back home. again, massive respect to these clubs. It's just a different life. I'm going to be going to a Detroit Lions game here to start the season. I'm a longtime Lions season ticket holder. I'm going to go with my family, and we drive up and tailgate because of London with the public transportation. It's a series of public transportation connections, and it was quite a journey back based upon the fact that I had traveled and not got a lot of sleep at Norwich City. I was deprived of sleep already. I got back to my hotel room back in London, and I crashed pretty hard. If I recall correctly, I ordered room service pizza, and I was in bed by about 8 o'clock because I was flying out early the next morning to head into. Now, this is an interesting scarf here, and I'm actually going to cover two scarves because I don't have a lot of stories for this one. I'll cover two scarves in this episode, but I flew out early the next morning into Paris, France. So the I guess second leg of my journey, or second country that I was visiting in my journey, was France, and it was specifically South France, which was right up my alley because there were some beaches involved. But I made a stop because there was a down day into Paris first, and having never been there, I literally picked out the hotel room that was the closest to the Eiffel Tower, that was affordable for me, of course, and it was something with Eiffel Tower in the hotel room name. I arrived into France. I feel like it was a bus that I took to get to my hotel room and check in. Some beautiful sights to be seen. I don't know, what you call the different statues that are there, but very, very artistic. As we drove into the Eiffel Tower and I made my way to the hotel room, I was able to get a little bit of an early check-in and just drop off my bags. And then I had a day to explore Paris. And gosh, I'll tell you, they talk about it with all the, I don't know what the quotes are, but it's, the vacation destination for couples and all of that and how romantic it is. And I could totally see that. I think if I was in a relationship and traveling there, gosh, you could spend a good 3 days there just wandering around and being entertained. Because I'll tell you, I spent the entire day just wandering. Not only was the Eiffel Tower there for me to explore, but also the restaurants, and the food was fantastic. And around the Eiffel Tower, the parks are immaculate. There is a river that runs through it with people that live on their boats down by the river. You can walk around that. It's relaxing. There's different fountains. And then there's a residential area with small shops that are absolutely beautiful that you can walk through, sort of, not the outskirts, maybe, a quarter of a mile away from the Eiffel Tower, but I must have walked, I don't know, I must have walked 5 miles that day, and I never got bored once. Next thing I knew, it was starting to get dark, and the Eiffel Tower was doing its light show, and that meant it was time for me to wind it down and crash because I was due to fly. Yep, I flew. A lot of people said I should have taken the train, but I did fly into South France. So, thank you again for joining me for episode 2 in my series, A Footballer's Vacation. I hope I'm not boring you. If I am, don't watch. It is what it is. What I do hope I'm doing is inspiring somebody else to make a similar trip. I know how much this vacation means to me. It makes it so much more enjoyable when I'm watching football on TV now. I can't wait to take another vacation exactly like this. So if I inspire just one person to book that plane flight and travel somewhere to watch a soccer fixture, then I will have done my job. So that's why I put together these series. I hope you've enjoyed episode 2, and I'll leave you with this for episode 3. I'm heading down to South France, and I'm heading down to one of my personal favorite destinations, Montpellier, where I enjoyed some beach time and, of course, some football. So I will see you on episode 3. And until I see you there, go Gunners and On the Ball City. Whatever you choose to watch, enjoy your football.